No, I'm going
I had to get locked in.
Let's go.
Let's go. My friend, Shaun Cooke, thank you so much for coming on to the show. You are a wild man's master coach and men's group facilitator. You have done most of your coaching has all been referral based, which is absolutely insane. You've spent around 4 years in a tent in Northern America, Canada, where it has been freezing to enhance your own masculinity, especially after the catalyst of your dear old man passing away. You've built houses in the wood from scratch. You've were my coach in the bridge experience. Opened up my heart. Thank you for that. You've got your NLP certification. You've done the Elementum coaching with Preston Smiles, and you've been a facilitator at the bridge experience. You also had 6 years experience in the coaching space. Thank you for coming on to the show.
Thank you, man. Pleasure to be here.
I'm excited to have you here. So the first point that I just want to mention and say for us to talk on is awaken the king within.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean to you?
So I believe that all men have a king inside them. And by that, I mean a sovereign, powerful, capable being that looks after his world and knows in it. And most of our young adult lives and teenage lives, we spend putting bricks up in front of our king as we learn from society what to do, what not to do, what's good, what's not. And awakening the king within is the process of taking those bricks down so that the king can come forward and actually rule his kingdom.
Crazy. I felt that from you when you were first coaching me at Bridge, because it was my second time that I went to the retreat. It was absolutely mind-blowing. And what I noticed when we were going through all the exercises, and I think this is really fascinating, because when you talk about people who can talk the talk and walk the walk, I think you really walked the walk. Like, you nailed that embodiment piece, because whenever there was compliments or exercises or seeing through the bullshit, like in real time, like I can't explain to the listeners what it's like when you're at a retreat or an experience where you're literally getting tested from every single angle, which is seeing your capacity for your confidence, highlight your insecurities and everything like that. And you were able to like cut through all the bullshit. And what I noticed and really respected about you was just like the words that you said with the embodiment that you have was just so real, and it was so admirable, and it really did have that like sovereign energy. And I feel like, for me, I feel like so many business leaders, so many men, so many husbands, that skill would completely transform their lives.
Thank you, man. And I agree completely. Like, we have so many men out there that are boys in men's bodies, people who don't know or are afraid of their own masculinity. And when I'm going to tangent here a little bit, but when we talk about toxic masculinity, that's what it is. It's boys who have men's tools and don't know what to do with them.
What do you mean by that? Like, what are the tools? Like, what are the tools and why do they need them?
Well, let's start with the scary one. Danger. Danger, being able to hunt, being able to fuck shit up. That's a tool. But it needs to be well used, right? A sword is an incredible tool for cutting things, for defending people. But if you're just running around your town, waving it around and cutting everybody, of course people are going to be afraid of you, right? So danger, anger, these are tools that we have in our tool belt. And that when used properly, when embodied in a sovereign and controlled way, actually make people feel safer around this, right? When a samurai was in a village, people knew they were safer. And if someone went up to him and said, "I'm going to kick your ass," you know what he would do? He would probably just laugh at them, because he knew that he was a master of his danger. He knew that he was a master of his life and his death. And he wouldn't use it unless it was actually needed. And it's that knowledge of our danger and that we don't need to use it unless needed that makes people feel safe. Right? So that's one of the tools. We can keep going. I mean, like one of the flip sides of that is compassion, right? A lot of people in the modern world see men as closed off, right? And men see men as closed off because I need to close off my compassion. I need to close off my feelings so that I can get shit done. But really, if you know how to use your compassion when it is needed in a way that is effective, then it will make everything that you do even better, right? If you can step in when someone's struggling and instead of just say, you're doing it fucking wrong, do it better. And you can lift them up and enroll them in what they're doing as a leader. And I believe every person is a leader, let alone all men. And part of being a leader is enrolling people. And part of enrolling people is being compassionate for where they're at, right? So these are all tools that we have. There's one more I want to mention because I think it is the quintessential and essential tool of the masculine, and that is containment. That is being able to hold a space, a person, your partner, yourself, your sexual urges, your angers, all of this. If a man learns how to contain first himself, there's nothing that can get in his way.
There's so many points that I want to speak to on that. But one of the first ones I think is really cool is the word danger, right? It's D-anger. Capital D for big dick baby, D-anger. And then compassion is, calm, and then passion. I believe that like anger and like passion is just anger suppressed. I was really interested in that. It's like, the conclusion I was drawing to as you were talking was if you heal your relationship with anger, you become more compassionate.
100%.
Because you've got it there, which I find is like really interesting. Now, I do want to talk about this danger a little bit because you're someone who's experienced that. We're having a conversation about you in Canada. It's freezing, right? You're just living in a tent because you want to, because you want to get in touch with your masculinity, because you're like, cities, don't like it. I want to be out here, right? I'm going to go there to like do my work, but I like being out here is where I like being. And you're telling me stories around bears, like approaching your campsite and your dog just like barking at these like bears to shoo them off. And you said it in a ways and you're like, yeah, bears just come up and like, yeah. And I'm like, what the hell, man? Are you serious? That's like a bear. I mean, yeah, we got poisonous animals in Australia, but like that's a bear, dude, and I feel like you just being in nature like that, your relationship with danger would have just been, I believe it'd be tested, and that's why it's been so integrated. Tell me more about that.
So to come back to the samurai,
Nuts.
one of their practices was to meditate on their own death every single day.
Memento mori, is that the...
Maybe. I don't know.
Okay.
And when I was out in nature, out where there are bears and wolves and lynx and moose and elk, all of them.
Yeah, moose are more dangerous, right? They kill more people here than bears, don't they?
Yeah, moose are grumpy motherfuckers. I steer further clear of moose than bears.
So crazy.
But it's something that I almost didn't have to think about, that there was danger, possible danger, anytime I went out. But my unconscious would think about that. And so I had the opportunity to meditate on death almost every single day because I'd be out running, I'd be out walking. Like, I love being in the forest. And there's always going to be the switched on radar of listening, of watching, of smelling. Like, is there something around? And that's one of the reasons why having a dog is so amazing, because they have those, they're basically an extension of my senses. So they tell me even more what's going on. And I can tell. It's like, oh, is there a bear around? It's like, okay. Maybe, like, one thing I say about bears and wolves, most of the wild animals, is respect. Right? And it's the same thing with our own danger, our own anger. It doesn't want to destroy. It wants to do something. A bear wants to do something. It wants to get an easy meal. And so if we respect them, and also let it know that we're not an easy meal, they're not going to bug us. And it's the same thing with danger in myself, danger in you. And of course, there's going to be some crazy people. Maybe that respect is a little bit bigger in space. You know, and so being able to sit with that and integrate it as a part of daily life. I mean, heck, up there, like I was up northern Canada, as you said. You get trapped outside in -40, danger is a very real possibility.
Yeah, for Australians, that's like, wait, is that -40
Celsius?
Oh, damn. You know cold, bro.
Yeah, dude. Like, I mean, so one time I came home to my nice warm cabin and dropped all my winter gear, settled in, and then I had to take the compost out. Right? I had the little bin of compost, and the compost was out in the yard. So I go outside, and I'm just in shorts and a t-shirt because I'm like, it's going to be like 30 seconds. There and back. I come back, and the door handle had broken. So literally I was locked outside of my cabin. Like I could not get in because the door handle, the latch it was stuck in.
Immediately I start freaking out because I start thinking of, like, if I smash a window to get in, then it's going to be freezing. There's minus 40 degrees weather coming in at nighttime. You think I'll freeze to death. Like literally, if I can't fix this, I'd be freaking out. But do I have to tear this thing down? Like, I would go straight to panic. Because I haven't been in cold weather like that, so I wouldn't know what it's like. But just put myself in that scenario right now.
So, I mean, one of the beautiful things about living in a temperature like that is that people look out for each other. And even though it was really spread out with people a long way away, they look out for each other. So when I ran to my neighbor's door and knocked on the door and be like, I'm in fucking shorts and t-shirt, and it's -40, I'm locked out of my cabin. He went, come in and have a cup of tea. Right? And how I want to bring this to men, right, is if the world is dangerous out there, if I am dangerous, if you are dangerous, then in order to navigate it well, we need to be in community. We need to support each other. Right? If we're constantly tearing each other down, then people are going to figuratively die, or maybe even literally die. But if we are in community and supporting each other as men, then we got a bunch of kings. We got a bunch of kingdoms.
Yeah. And we're going to win.
We're going to win.
Yeah. There is no point in time for me where I've never felt so supported as when I've had like men at my back. It's like men at my back and like a woman at the front. So it's like, you know, I want to provide and protect and do everything that I can for her, impress her, and like all of that is like so motivating. But then knowing that you have like the hand from men just like at your back, like, you know, we fucking got you, is like the strongest that I've ever felt.
Amen, man.
Yeah.
Amen.
That's so crazy, bro. So crazy. So, because I'm going to get, if everyone listening, I'm going to get into some practical tips towards this soon in regards to how all this relates to the modern world. We're going to get into that. But for the moment, I want to talk about to you, like, what would be, you know, your definition of a wild man? Because you've been the wild man. You've done the wild man thing. What most people would think of in nature. But I know your definition of the wild man is different.
I would say my definition of the wild man is a man who's not afraid of himself. Like, it doesn't matter if someone's you know, I'll say this, like flaming gay and metrosexual. That man has a wild man in him, even if he never leaves the city. Just as much as someone like Bear Grylls, who's like, you know, crazy wild man, or David Goggins, right? Those guys aren't afraid of themselves. Just as much as the person who is totally themselves in the middle of the city is not afraid of themselves. And the wild man that comes out is the authenticity and fire that men have within them that is the impetus to push forward no matter what.
What do you think disconnects people from their wild man? Like,
it's all those bricks that I was talking about that we put in front of the king, right? It's, for example, for me and for Australians, right? Tall poppy syndrome. When I was young, I got beaten up every single day because I was like, ooh, me, I'm going to shine bright. I'm going to love everybody. All of this, be tall and big and bright. Smacked out.
teachers, friends, just shut down
everybody.
Yeah.
Right? And that taught me that if I'm big and bright and fully authentic, i.e. wild, that I'm going to be abandoned, that I'm going to be beaten for it, and it's just not going to be a safe place.
He punished to not feel good enough.
Exactly. And even, you know, you go into corporate. Don't speak up. Don't speak up.
Follow the rules.
You follow the rules. Be a good boy, right? Even the stuff like boys don't cry. An old saying, boys don't cry. That's like our tears and our sadness held in dignity, held in sovereignty.
All right, wait, I want to pause that one. What do you mean by dignity and sovereignty? So in this, like if I'm crying and you're saying keep your dignity, like what do you, and I'm feeling emotion, what do you mean by that?
It means don't be ashamed. Don't be afraid of it. And don't project that shame and that fear out into the world. Right? Of like, don't look at me. Of, oh my God, I'm doing something wrong or bad. But to see a man cry, fucking chest out, eyes up, even his lips are quivering, you know, got emotion in his voice, that is fucking powerful. The most powerful time I ever saw my dad was at his mom's funeral. And it was the only time I ever saw him cry in his life. He was speaking about his mom and how much he cared for her. And oof, that hit everybody in there. Because he was still in his dignity about it. He's like, this is my mom. Of course I'm going to feel shit.
That just makes me feel emotions. You just even saying that, bro, I had goosebumps. So on that as well, with a part of it, like, you know, with the wild man too, and men being in their dignity and crying, like you had a close relationship with your father and then he passed and then you had to go through all the grief. And it's actually quite common how many men I've worked with who come to my community who have lost their fathers. Like, it's very interesting. Or lost someone really close to them, a friend or something like that. And then there's like this grief that lasts for way longer than a couple months. Like way longer than a couple months. And I feel that experience, you've used it because you've done so much work. And it's just my experience of just like staying with you for a few days. And just like noticing your energy, because I analyze everyone, like the lessons that you've learned from it and being able to put it into your heart and bring it into your relationship with your partner. How your relationship to yourself and how you show up is like, it's really impressive. So for the men who have experienced grief, I want them to get an understanding of your mindset and how you moved through it and used it with that whole dignity thing and being able to like, you know, expand your capacity. Talk to me about that.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for your kind words. Grief and grieving and the space for it is something that our modern society has lost. Sure, there's funerals or memorials and we cry for a day. That's not grieving.
Yeah, just to add on to that was something you said beforehand, as when you were talking about men and crying, I just, the sentence popped up to my head and it was just, there is no sympathy for the men. And then I thought to myself, except from other men if we choose.
Yeah. And I would also say, if you're not feeling shame about your crying, if you're okay that you're feeling sad or grieving, which are two different things in my world, if you're not afraid of it, you will be surprised at the compassion that comes from everybody. Because they're like, oh, this is just a man who's feeling shit. This is just a human who's feeling shit.
Yeah.
Right?
And
the fact that we have put grief and sadness as something that is not seen, you just don't do that in public. Right? And then there's the weirdo going down the sidewalk crying. Is such a disservice to humanity as a whole, and especially men, because boys don't cry. One of my goals in life is to live a vivid life. And that means that it is bright, it is colorful, I feel shit, we have fun, I feel fear, I go and do it anyway, all of that. And grief is one of the most potent tools to experience that, right? In the 2 weeks after my dad's passing, I spent it with my family. That was some of the most vivid and potent and beautiful times of my life.
oh yeah.
Don't get me wrong, it was really shitty as well. But man, was it beautiful. Like, I got to experience the depths of my soul. I got to experience the depths of my family's soul. I got to feel the depths of what I felt for my dad that I didn't even know I felt for him while he was alive. And so as a society, as men, we need to create spaces, intentional spaces. When something big like that happens, come on, let's grieve, right? I want to tell you a little story here. After I got back to Whitehorse, Northern Canada, after being with my family and my dad passed, there was about a month, and of course I was living by myself in a cabin, middle of nowhere. I just felt myself contracting, like just freeze inside.
Like your physical body.
My physical body and also mostly my emotional body. Like I was just fucking frozen.
Figuratively and literally.
Exactly. Exactly. And I just couldn't bring myself to do anything other than my obligations. I couldn't bring myself to like make myself a breakfast other than the fucking plain oats on the stove. Like bare minimum. And it's because I was frozen. And then what I did is I called 4 of my most trusted men from my men's group. I said, guys, I need you to help me grieve. Because I am frozen. I can feel the grief inside me and I'm not letting it out, even though I'm trying to feel it all. And like, let me tell you, we went and had a fire, sat around. I asked them to ask me questions about my dad so I could speak about him, so I could grieve him, so I could feel his story in the world.
How's the self-leadership, bro?
And like, having that intentional space to do that and feel it was just like a dam breaking. And all of a sudden, you know, I was still deep in grief, right? A fucking month and a half, 2 months after my dad passed, of course. But man, it was just like everything got easier, even if it was still hard. And that's the power of intentional spaces like that are held by other men for men.
Mm. I challenge like everyone listening right now just to that one is like, I think out of like 100, out of 1,000 people who experience something intense like that, I'd say 2 or 3 would have the courage, maybe even less, to go, I'm grieving, get around me, ask me questions about my dad so that I can grieve. Like that is so anti people pleasing. That's like anti Mr. Nice Guy, being able to put yourself first, but with love. Like being able to do that, it's like, oh, I'm just thinking, like for me as my mom, like, oh, because just thinking about being in that position and then having to ask, because you know that's the only thing that's going to get you out of it, is, man, so many people wouldn't do that. Like, why do you think men get so afraid to do something like that?
Boys don't cry,
Just the conditioning.
right? We've been taught that you got to suck it up. You got to do it. You got to be the man of the house or whatever it is.
Yeah. No one can hold you, man.
Don't show it. Yeah. And if you are in your grief or your anger, you're going to destroy the world, right? That's what we've unconsciously been taught, right?
Yeah.
An angry man is going to go rape and pillage. A sad man who's uncontrollable is probably going to do that as well.
And to speak on the sensitivities on this, because I'm shifting gears a little bit. I've got a quote for you in a second. I'll shift gears on this a little bit because I think this is amazing, right? So what you talk about in this, because I believe is like a lot of men could benefit from understanding this. You use that and you increase the sensitivity of yourself and your emotions and your body. You remove in that period of time. I'm not saying this to compliment you. This is literally just facts. Right? Like, you removed insecurity, and even though it's there, like sometimes you're still moving through that. You're doing whatever it is, and you got yourself into a position where you were in a room at the bridge experience before you met your partner, and she walked up to you and she was like, "There is something so sexy about you that my body is just activated," right? And I was like, and I thought about that as you were speaking. It's like, well, that's the shit. Like, so many men are struggling in relationships and all this other stuff because they can't feel. So the woman's body isn't going to be able to be receptive to that.
So there's two things here, right?
I'm so excited to get into this.
There's presence and there's containment. And containment creates presence.
Okay, so what do you mean by containment?
Yeah, so containment is my ability to hold myself, right? As you said, one of the things that I did there was I held myself enough to say, I need help. I held myself enough to say that I can't do this alone. I held myself enough to say, hey, will you men hold me? So that I could feel the depths of what I was going through and hold it myself as well, right? And that is a practice. Can you hold your anger? Can you hold your sexual feelings?
A lot of men give them away, right?
A
They
lot
give
of
their
men give 'em
sexual
away.
anyway. See, here you go.
Yeah. And like try and flirt with everyone or try and pick up everyone or just one night stands or even with their romantic partners. It's like when they feel their sex, it's like, I got to have sex now. And it's like, no, can you fucking contain it and make it more potent and allow that to feed?
Yeah, I say most of the sexual energy men are giving away in relationships.
Yeah, 100%. But like, if you can contain it, it feeds the electricity and the vividness of your presence. And that is what is magnetic about people, right? You see someone who walks in the room and everybody turns their head. Who's that? That's someone with magnetic presence and containment around who they are.
I just like that. So you said containment, and then it feeds presence. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So tell me more about this presence and how it worked in terms of like your partner. You guys have an amazing relationship. Just electricity. Blah, 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 blah.
Electricity, right? Lightning can only happen when a certain differential of charge is built up between a cloud and the ground. And then you get sparks. Then you get fire. And if there was no containment, it would just be a constant stream and it would be weak as shit. It would be boring and we don't even see it. Right? It is constantly happening. We don't see it because it hasn't built up. But if we can contain our electricity, our partners can contain theirs, or even more potently for a man-woman relationship or a masculine-feminine relationship, the woman gets to express it all, gets to feel it all. And so that the man can hold that and hold himself. And when I say hold and contain, I don't mean not express, but it's not splooging everywhere.
Yeah, it's just not giving it away.
Just giving it away.
Yeah, that's where the containment comes
If
in.
you can hold that presence, right? I can't count the amount of times pretty much daily I catch my partner's eye and I look at her and we fucking hold it. And you know what happens?
Yeah.
Magnetism, lightning, electricity, right? I'll make a bold statement here. Probably the most attractive thing for a woman in a man is his depth of presence. And that is what I'm talking about.
That's awakening.
That's what we're building. That's awakening the king, right? And when you can know and not be afraid of or ashamed of, right? The wild man, the depth of who you are, and be able to articulate it and be it in the world. Doesn't matter what you look like. Doesn't matter how much you make. You are going to be attractive to women.
I feel that, man. I feel that so hard. So on that, the wild man, I got a quote for you. The wild man doesn't come to full life through being natural, going with the flow, smoking weed, reading nothing, and being generally groovy. Ecstasy amounts to living within reach of the high voltage of the golden gifts. The ecstasy comes after thought, after discipline imposed on ourselves, after grief.
Mm-hmm.
Iron John, Robert Bly.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that quote. And what it means to you.
So the first half of that quote described me perfectly in my 20s. Nice guy smoking a lot of weed. Really easy to be around. Whatever. It's all good. I'm just going with the flow. If someone insults me, it's just water off a duck's back. I don't care. That wasn't a potent man. Like, there were some things inside of me that some people saw that I didn't yet. That were like, what the fuck is that? And I needed eventually men to pull that out of me and be like, what the fuck is that? Bring it forward. Instead of just like, oh, that's nice. And once I got that reflection from other men, not women, because women, it's just like stroking the ego. It's like, oh, that's great. Yeah, I love it. But when other men see it and say, that's fucking special, it's like, oh, okay, cool. I got something. And then you start to forge your own way, right? Then you start to bring your actual authenticity forward, which is the wild man, right? The wild man isn't just going with the flow. The wild man is walking his own way, creating his own path. That's what wild is, right? Because you're not afraid of who you are and what path you're walking.
I think that reflects so much in relationships as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, here's one of the things that I'm still learning to embody. I'm still learning to learn. And this is why women, especially in their 20s, go for the asshole. Is because women want to know that they're not going to push you around. That you are going to walk your own path and you're going to bring them with you. Right? And so in relationship, we get all fucked up because it's as a recovering nice guy is, oh, whatever you want, babe. Yeah, like anything that'll make you happy. That doesn't actually make them fucking happy in the long run. That makes them bored. But if I'm willing to stand in my power and say, no, this is where I'm walking, even if it pisses you off right now, they're going to go, oh, this is someone that I can trust. This is someone who's not going to waver when things get tough. This is someone who's not going to look at the other woman and go, well, what about her? The grass is always greener when things aren't going well. That is security. That is safety. And that is what the feminine is looking for from the masculine.
Which comes from a form of wild man. One of the things that stuck out to me on that one was the ecstasy comes after thought, after discipline imposed on ourselves, and after grief. And like what that sort of means to me is thought. It's all the thinking stuff that we do, right? It's the planning, it's the journaling, it's the self-reflection, it's the questions, it's the coaching, it's the therapy, it's all of that. And then the discipline for me is like imposing ourselves is it's the training. You're on a 5-day fast right now and you're like 4 days in. It's I can build, I'm going to stay out here and build a cabin in the woods. It's the running, it's the training, it's all of that. And then the after grief is like, well, we're always going to go through something really heavy hitting.
Mm-hmm.
So like, for you, in terms of moving through that, how do you think, from your experience, is best for people to move through those things?
So, Martin Prechtel says that grief and praise are the same thing.
Interesting.
Grief is just praise for something that's no longer here. Praise is grief that you're going to leave my world. Nothing is permanent. Whether I leave first or you, it doesn't matter. We're not going to be together at the end. So by praising you, I'm also grieving that it's going to end. And those are two of the key ingredients in an alive person, right? Something I love about you, man, is that you've got a lot of enthusiasm and stoke. You've got a lot of praise, right? Which is a form of grief, right? Because it brings us, like, there's nothing as potent as grief to bring us to the depths of our being and bring us to our knees. Right? And so, like, when we can feel that, why it's after grief, it's after a man has felt himself, after a man has explored and felt, whether or not intentionally or not, how deep he can go. Right? And I'm going to work backwards through this, right? The discipline that we impose on ourselves is that discipline of, I'm not going to look, or I'm not going to cheat, or I'm not going to have that chocolate bar, or I'm going to do my workout. That's safety for our own feminine, right? Because I believe, that we have a masculine and a feminine in each of us. And that, speaking of wild men, like, our most authentic self, i.e. our wild man, is when we can fully express both and they can both marry each other and be potent with each other, right? Because there's nothing more potent than a man and a woman on a throne. And so if we can create that safety within ourselves that we also try to create for the women in our lives through discipline. And as a side note, if any men want to up-level their relationship and their electricity, take orgasm off the table from sex for at least a week. It'll be next level, I promise it. Because of that discipline, and that woman can now trust that even at the heights of ecstasy, almost the heights of ecstasy, you can still control yourself. You are still in control of your skin suit body. Right? So grief gives us the depth. Discipline gives us the ability to move in and out of that depth at any point. And what I loved about this comes after thought is, yes, we need to do the reflection. The thought is important. We need to do the reflection. We need to do the planning. We need to do the journaling, whatever it is. But the ecstasy, that's not where it is. And the ecstasy is even without thought. It's when we are present and potent in our presency. Presency? Presence.
Presidency. No, I like that. I have another quote on this, and I've got another point that I want to get into. And the point I want to get to after this, remind me, is the book that you recommended me, The Irresistibly Feminine, which is like that book was written for women, which I find was unconsciously written for men because it's trying to help women understand men, but we don't understand ourselves, baby. So reading that book was crazy. So I want to get to that after this quote.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Men are taught over and over when they are boys that a wound that hurts is shameful. This is just recapturing it, like everything he said. A wound that stops you from continuing to play is a girlish wound. He who is truly a man keeps walking, dragging his guts behind. Our story gives a teaching diametrically opposite. It says that where a man's wound is, that is where his genius will be. Wherever the wound appears in our psyches, whether from alcoholic father, shaming mother, shaming father, abusing mother, whether it stems from isolation, disability, or disease, that is precisely the place for which we will give our major gift to the community.
Amen.
Just tell me your thoughts on that.
First thing that comes to mind is Stephen Hawking,
Yeah.
right? There is a man who could have been ashamed, who could have said, I'm not enough. My body is fucked.
He's body bred, yeah.
And I know I'm not going to live as long as a normal person. He could have said, oh, put me on disability. I'm not going to do anything because I'm so broken. But he didn't. He accepted it and said, this is me. And with this, I've got this beautiful brain. I will accept my wounding, my injury, chronic disease, and still move forward. And it's not that he's dragging his guts behind him. He's moving forward in dignity, right? It's what I was talking about with a man who can be in his anger or in his tears. In dignity. Yeah, I've got this shit going on. And I'm still here. And no, because I've got a broken leg, I'm not going to play soccer with you, but I'll enjoy watching. And maybe I'll do my other shit on the side. Right? I've got a fire background. I was a firefighter for many years.
Yeah, you were a firefighter for ages. Like firefighter for ages. In Canada. It was crazy.
And one of the most important things for a firefighter is not to become a casualty himself. Because statistically, if a firefighter goes down in a fire, it takes 11 more firefighters to rescue him. Not just one, 11. And that's 11 firefighters, 12 firefighters who can't do their job. So if we are on the battlefield dragging our guts behind us, we're actually a liability. Right? And I want to tangent this very briefly for money. Men. If you are a liability financially, you are a liability to everyone in your life. You are dragging your guts behind you, and you're going to have 11 more people needing to save you. And if you want to lead, you've got to back up, stitch the wound, let it heal, and then begin leading from there.
Just to like give you some props in this one, we were having a chat, it wasn't long ago, and you were like, yeah, I was in a men's circle, in a men's community, and we all got completely naked. We got bare as hell, bare in our balls, and we had to share our finances and our whole situation from there. And the sacredity of that, and like the ritualistic of just like bearing that to all the other guys is crazy. So just in regards to like when people, just like some context in regards to the dedication to the work, to wanting to succeed, is like, I was like, damn, that's amazing. And also I remember when we were going for a walk, you said to me, you were like, I was like, how'd you get into men's work? And you were like, well, my brother started men's work and he was in a men's circle and a men's community. I'm like, why is he crushing it in every single area? And why am I not? And it's like, well, that's fucking why.
Yeah. He had men behind him in the best way. Men supporting him, and also men calling him on his bullshit. Right? That's one of the biggest things that we do in men's groups, is call each other on our bullshit. And I would say that it's almost a natural man-to-men way of relating, which I see a lot in locker rooms and in sports teams, right? Guys chirping each other. Guys saying, oh, you ain't shit. Look at what I just did to you and all this. That's the same stuff, but it's the...
it's like a healthy relationship.
It's a healthy relationship, but that's call it the non-functional version of that. I was going to call it the immature, but I think that's also a mature way of relating. But when we can give each other honest feedback of where your bullshit is and how I see you showing up, not as the king that I know that you are, that's me in service of you. That's me being an actual friend to you. And that kind of support is also support that we just can't get from women. Not because they can't give it, they can damn well give it.
But they shouldn't.
Every man knows that. Every man knows that women see them and go, why the fuck aren't you doing this shit? But men, because we love women, and this is obviously heterosexual, or you can call it the masculine and the feminine, whether you're gay, straight out, doesn't matter.
We love the feminine. Yep.
We love the feminine. The masculine loves the feminine and does not want to let it down. And so unless you are like way the fuck up here, mostly enlightened, when a woman says, here's where you're falling short, 99% of men are going to go, oh, fucking deflate.
Yeah.
And yeah, you go, okay, I can do better. And okay, shake that off. Let's do it. But when a man says it to you, you go, oof.
Yeah.
Roger that. Let's go.
Yeah. But they don't tell you like that either.
Exactly.
Women won't tell you like, hey, this is the thing you're not doing. They'll say something along the lines of like, indirect. They'll say something along the lines of like, oh, that hasn't been done for ages. And you're like, what the fuck do you mean? But she's trying to tell you that you've got no time.
I mean,
you're busy.
Yes, that is a habit of the feminine.
Yeah.
And even if they deliver it in the exact same way, most men aren't going to be able to receive it.
No, we don't want to receive it anyway. Even if they give it direct.
Exactly.
We're not going to be able to receive it. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then
men grow when they get that feedback from men.
Yeah.
When they get that support.
Yeah.
And once again, support, and I'll call it cheerleading from women, feels great.
Yeah.
Feels great.
Yeah.
It's wonderful. Cheerleading and honest support from men is like, I can fucking do anything.
Yeah, it's different. And support as well is also like, it is calling people out in their bullshit. It's
100%.
not just, oh, like, hey bro, you can do this.
100%.
Because sometimes, hey bro, you got this, you can do this, is just like not enough. Like, it's not that. It's like, I want you, when I'm asking for support, to be like, bro, get your fucking act together. You know what I mean? Make a move. This isn't you. Let's go. Move it. Break it. Let's go. What you're doing right now is not you. Let's fucking go. And like that type of energy is, I think, so much better than, oh, it's okay, bro, you got it.
100%. Like this was a lesson that took me at least 10 years to learn. I remember I had a buddy who was with a girlfriend, long-term girlfriend. He knew wasn't good for him. All of his friends could see isn't good for him. Back then, I was a real nice guy, and it was just like, oh man, you should like probably break up with her. Like, it's not good. And like no real authenticity or fire behind it. And his older brother actually pulled me aside one day and said, dude, you're his friend. This is your duty. Like, whatever you do, tell him, because I'm his brother. He's not going to listen to me. Tell him straight up what you see. And then it is also your responsibility to be there for him, to make sure that he doesn't fall on his desires and go back to her. Do whatever you can to make sure he doesn't see her. Because he knows it's wrong for him. She knows it's wrong for him. You know it's wrong for him. And that's what a friend does. Right? That's a friend's duty. Is to tell someone how it is. Real talk. And then hold them to that.
That's where you talk about the holding the space before, like why men's work is kind of like, is so important. I know we're talking about men's work here, but like I really want people to understand this is like, you know, it's not like it takes a lot of skill to build up the body as a man so that you can hold someone like that. Because it's like we get a lot of people that come from therapists and they'll come into our community and they go, oh, thank God I'm here. They're like, the therapist thing didn't work out. This thing happened. I thought it was working. We just sat there and talked and blah, 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 blah. But there was no like heart in it. There was no this thing. It's like, you know, it's a very much like, obviously I'm not bagging therapists because there's some amazing therapists out there and I go to therapy myself.
Oh, man.
Yeah, right. Thank you. And a lot of the time it's like, it's not enough for me in certain situations. And it's so much more potent and powerful to be around that. But I think it was really cool. I want to touch on like, just shift gears onto the lessons that you've learned in relationship when regards to the feminine misunderstanding men, but men misunderstanding like themselves and what they need. Because some of this is some like really practical tools that men can use to communicate to the feminine. And this isn't just the feminine. This is like, if you've got employees, if you got parents, because I find like, even between me and my dad, there's like a lot of femininity in the relationship because there's a lot of love, there's a lot of flow, right? So there's a lot of like feminine that goes back and forth between me and him, even though he's a guy, right? So talk to me about that.
Yeah, I mean, Alison Armstrong says that men just think that women are hairy women, and women just think that men are ugly women. Or I think I said that wrong, but
yeah,
essentially women think that men are
hairy women.
Are hairy women.
Yeah.
And men think that women are pretty men.
Yeah.
Right? That's how we communicate, right? As a man, it's like, I need to be really direct with you because we are direct.
And you're pretty.
And you're pretty. And so I'm going to be direct with you. And that's useful in some ways. And when it comes to the emotional side of things, it's incredibly unhelpful.
Yeah.
Right? Men, when we communicate with each other, we're like, all right, how can we move forward? How can we solve this problem? Every man knows you do that with a woman, you're going to end up with tears, and she's going to be saying, why are you trying to fix me?
Yeah, even if she's like, why are you trying to fix me? Yeah, I know, right? And why are you being like, and then they'll say things like, I like it when you're direct. And then it's like, you want me to lead, you don't want me to be direct.
Exactly.
You want me to say anything, you just want me to lead.
So, and this is something that I'm really, really in right now of learning, right? Is say you're in a car with your partner and you've been driving for a while and it's quiet and you're like, why hasn't she said anything? This is getting boring. Like, oh my God, like, why hasn't she done anything? Fucking lead, man. That's what she's waiting for. Doesn't matter. Ask her a question. Say something. Lead. You might miss the mark and it might make things worse or better or whatever, but lead, right? That's what she said. She doesn't necessarily want you to be direct. Sometimes she does, but she wants you to lead. And like when she's in tears, lead her to safety. Be safe. Don't be a fixer. Don't defend yourself, which is the hardest thing to fucking do. If she's in tears because of something I've done, of course I want to defend myself.
Yeah.
But I need to lead her to safety first.
Yeah. Leading isn't fixing.
Leading isn't fixing.
Do you have any examples of fixing? Just people listening, so they're like, oh shit. I might be fixing out here.
Yeah. So there's a great video. I don't know what it's called on YouTube. And there's a guy and a girl sitting on a couch. And the girl's got a giant nail stuck in her forehead. And she's talking to him going, babe, it just feels like there's this like pressure in my forehead. And every time I, lean over, it's just like this pain in my forehead. Like, what is that? And the guy's like, just looking at the nail, be like, well, you've got a fucking nail in your forehead. She's like, why are you fixing me? I just want you to hear what is my experience. And it's exactly that, right? Women sharing their feelings about something. And then a man trying to be helpful, trying to be good. And this is for women as well right now, right? Even if a man is trying to fix you, feels like he's trying to fix you, he's coming from a good place. So even if it's hard, do your best to cut him some slack and say, babe, I just need you to hear me right now. Because he's trying to help you, right? And a woman's in her emotions and sharing what she's feeling. It's like, well, why don't I just cut the lawn right now because the lawn's too long and that's what you're feeling emotions. They're like, no. Just wait. Lead her to safety. And then lead her wherever it needs to go.
And it's so crazy. And for the women listening, and I hope the men listen to this as well, because adding on that, this is something that I learned. It's a recommendation from you. It's like what the women can do. Because a lot of people, I feel, put like this stuff as well on men because we are the ones that are supposed to lead. But also, if we've got no freaking experience, dude, we don't know how to. We don't know how to. And we're going to make mistakes. And we're going to fuck up heaps of time. And I feel like there's no sympathy for that either. There's no like from the feminine because they're so worried about safety. And of course they're supposed to be, right? That they go, oh shit, this is like my man, he's fucking up. I'm going to be out of safety, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, okay, well, there's an element of trust there that's like, okay, if I really love this guy and like I see his potential and everything like that, and I know that he's got the good intentions and everything, this is how I can lead. And there's an example of talking about a pickle jar of when a woman's just standing there and she's like trying to open a jar. She's like, I can't do it. Like, this is frustrating. I can't open this jar. Immediately, we're like,
Yep.
we pop up, boom.
18 men right there.
Right, let me fix the jar. You know what I mean? We'll open it straight away. And then, so it's like women can communicate like that as well by simply just saying, I feel sad. I feel hurt. Yeah. I feel unloved. And that is a tool for men to go, I need to do something about this. And I may get it wrong.
And the tricky part of this, right, is exactly what we're talking about is like, women, if you want your men to win with you, give us problems to solve.
Oh, I love that.
Right? Because men
Give us problems to solve so that we set us up to win.
Exactly. Like I always say, men are like puppies. Give us a job and pat us on the head when we do it right. And the tricky part is oftentimes women communicate like that. Oh, I'm so sad that X, Y, and Z. Men need to be able to have the containment to be able to lead her to safety first and then say there's a problem to solve and not say, oh, there's a problem, let's fucking go, which is the man thing to do, right? And this is all about containment, right? When a woman comes to you, it's like, can you contain yourself when you fuck up, right? If you're leading in a way that you haven't led before or in a place that you haven't led before, can you contain yourself enough and your ego enough to say, babe, I haven't done this before, but here's my plan. Or, babe, I know I just fucked that up. I did my best, and let's repair. That's containing yourself.
Yeah, the repair part you said is so important. It's funny when you're saying that. 'Cause I think that's so beneficial. But it's funny when you look at men's behavior, right? Because when we're hanging out, we want to bro out, right? Immediately you have something like, oh, this thing's fucked. And you're like, oh, bro, let's do this. Straight away. Like it's so straight away. And then as a guy, you're like, dude, thank you, right? And we get that with each other. Like we really understand it. And that's our way of understanding bonding. But I think like the father-daughter relationship is like, that's not going to work. When you understand, I think that when you start having a daughter, is what I see from observing, because I haven't got a daughter, and just like, but noticing my dad and coaching a lot of other fathers, it's like, oh, there's a different relationship there where there's like an acknowledgement of feelings first. He makes his daughter feel safe and then moves on. So it's like, well, of course, because that's what works. And then because there's friendship in the relationship, we go bro mode. So I think that's really interesting. Yeah. I've got another point for you here.
Yeah, cool. Let's keep going. What was it that we wanted to touch on that you wanted to come back to? You had a point that we were supposed to remember, and I can't remember it right now.
We'll see how we go. It's something to do with that, but
we'll
I think
come back.
That what we said was super valuable, so I reckon that was good enough. We are good enough. Let's go, right? The depth and the darkness of masculinity.
Well, where should we begin?
I'll let you
Depth in the darkness of masculinity.
Yeah, I'll let you lead on that one.
I'm going to say the depth and the darkness of humanity. Oof. Because men have darkness, women have darkness. And similarly to marrying our masculine and feminine within, if we can know our darkness and our light, we're that much more powerful. We're that much more a king. And so I think the darkness of masculinity has been easily on display for the last several hundred, maybe even several thousand years of dominating, of domineering, of taking what someone wants, of just go without heart. Right?
Yeah, and what you're speaking to with the marrying within, I just want to put on there just to give context to people. What you're talking about marrying within is being able to feel and go with the flow whilst there's structure and do the thing anyway.
Amen.
Right? And the practicality of that, for example, is having someone pass away. Being able to have an argument with your partner and still show up and still rock up and feel it and then still stick to the things that you know that you need to do. And sometimes the thing that you need to do is not doing those things and actually looking after you first. So being able to have the discernment with the actions and the behaviors, that you're doing comes from doing the work that you're talking about. So I just wanted to put some realist, some tangible stuff, so that people understand how powerful this is.
Exactly.
When they get it.
And so bringing this back to darkness of the masculine or the feminine, of humanity, right? The feminine's gift is this flow, is this infinite creativity, is this dancing and wondering at life. And there's a dark side to that. If you're only there, nothing's going to get done. You're just going to be in wonder and ecstasy and all of this beautiful thing. And then all of a sudden, your house is, messy as hell. Your bills are unpaid. You haven't gone to work in 3 weeks and you're fired. Right? This is an extreme, but it's the same thing with the masculine, right? Get it fucking done, right? Very few people are like David Goggins. Very few people who are just so get it done. But the dark side the light side of getting it done is he gets shit done. The dark side is then all of a sudden you have the dark side of corporate culture.
Yeah.
Money. What's the most efficient regardless of the human cost? No, I want that land, right? Even fucking Donald Trump. I want Greenland or in the Panama Canal, right? That is domineering dark side of masculine. That's putting yourself over other people. Fuck all the other people. Right? And I believe that the dark side of masculinity, which has kind of gone off the rails because we haven't valued the feminine, that is what people call toxic masculinity. That is what people call the patriarchy, right?
Yeah. Because even when you get into thinking about David Goggins in regards to that, someone who's just someone who gets so much shit done, he feels as well, man. You listen to his books and the vulnerability that he is sharing and the grief. He's in tears in his books. See, man, I listened to one who had this conversation with his mum. He brought her in there to talk about how his dad beat the shit out of him and she beat the shit out of her, and this relationship, she got into a relationship with a murderer, and they're both just crying, and he's just thank you, in his dignity, feeling things. And I'm well, that is the most positive way of using, the darkness and bringing it for good. And he's genuinely trying to help people, more than everyone else. I really admire him for that. So it's I think that was a good example of just people oh, David Goggins is just this blah, blah, blah. No, he's not. He's the most heart-led person ever.
And, right, he has married his darkness with his lightness. He talks about going into the darkness to do all sorts of fucked up shit that most people can't do, like a 163-mile race through Death Valley in the fucking summer. That's insane. He goes into the darkness to be able to do that, because the darkness, if it is contained, if it is used with potent presence, is an amazing source of fuel. Is an amazing source of get shit done. But it needs to be contained. It needs to be used as a tool instead of it using me as a tool.
So to speak onto that, right? Using it as a tool. What are the body and the heart connection practices that men can use that you that you found get results, to be able to integrate this and bring it into their family life and bring it into their career?
First thing I'll say is every man should be in a men's group. I don't care what men's group you're in, except for unless it's run by Andrew Tate. But every man should have men that you can be vulnerable with and be supported by. And that in itself is a body heart exercise.
It's the best therapy you ever do.
Yep.
By far.
Yep.
Yeah.
And in community with other men. Now you can do stuff like this at home as well. But then you can do body heart exercises, right? Then you can do something like an anger release where you physically embody your anger. Almost whether you feel it or not. It's in you. It's part of our human being.
Yeah, you're saying that, man. I remember when we were doing because we facilitate a lot of anger stuff at our retreats, like at the standard retreats, and then doing them like with the bridge experience and doing the anger releases there. I always remember, like for me, it's a bit different when I'm doing our retreats, because when the guys are there, they've got no choice to get angry. I'm in there, I'm the facilitator, I'm hyping people up in a way that they ain't never been hyped up before, and they're just like, if they're not getting angry at themselves or at something in their life, they're getting angry at me. Fuck you, Corey, like, fuck you. And I remember being at the bridge, and I was like, oh, I feel comfortable in that anger space because we've done so much of it. So I'm like, this is great. I love it. Can't wait to have my release. I'm as excited as much as I am emotional right now. I remember talking to some of the other guys there, and because it's not my retreat, so the guys aren't as related to me, they're a little bit softer in their energy. I remember just being like, oh, I'm not an angry guy.
That was me.
Yeah, I'm not an angry guy. I couldn't do that. Why would I want to do that? I'm not angry.
Right? I mean, Preston, who runs the bridge and one of my mentors, yours as well, he often says, predators hunt, herbivores forage, humans emote. It's just part of our being. It's what we do. We feel shit. And anger is one of our default settings, right? If you've ever seen a kid, if you've ever seen a baby, they get angry. They don't make it wrong. It's just what they're feeling. And to think that somehow that disappears from us as we get older is the height of arrogance. No, it's in there. And to all the nice guys out there, how many times have you said it's all good in your relationship for 12 months and then boom, you blow up, you snap? You may not look angry. Maybe it's tears, maybe it's resentment, maybe it's I'm fucking out of here. That's anger that's been suppressed. It's in there. It is meant to be felt. It is meant to be expelled. It's meant to be used. And then like when you can hook it up to your body and your heart and your balls, that's when magic happens.
All right, give me some tools. Give me some tools, right? Give me some tools. If I'm sitting at home and I'm like, all right, I want to start using this and practicing this.
So
rapid fire me some tools.
We're talking anger release.
Because I mash some shit.
Grab a frying pan. Frying pan's my favorite. You can use a tennis racket, you can use a baseball bat, you can use a cricket club, you can use a hockey stick, whatever the fuck. Something in your hands. And put it up above your heads and smash a bed, smash a couch, smash a pillow, whatever it is. Let your voice speak. Let yourself emote anger. Right? And I remember the very first time I did this. I told my partner, hey, I'm going to be doing this. Maybe you want to take the dogs for a walk, because I was living in a one-room cabin. She said, yep, no problem. And when you're done, would you please like smudge the place? Just light some sage and like move that energy. I said, yeah, babe, no problem. When I was done my anger release, I was like, nah, that's sacred rage. That's sacred. That doesn't need to be smudged. That was me.
That marinate, yeah.
That was me. And it wasn't that I wanted her to come back and feel anger or whatever, but that was sacred. That was wild.
Yeah.
She came back and was like, ooh, what did you do in here? Yes. Right? It's like a thunderstorm. As soon as the thunderstorm clears, it's like, this feels nice.
Yeah. A lot of people have embarrassment and shame around having to, because a criticism you can say in this is, you're throwing an adult tantrum. But it's like, we're still children in an adult's body. And if we don't allow ourselves, the privacy, because it's not like you have to go and do this in front of people. That's what men's retreats and stuff are for, to have the breakthrough. But you do this in private so that you don't act like a fucking dick or be the nice guy everywhere else.
Exactly.
Give us some more tools.
Yeah, I will say, like, you do it in private so you don't blow up on your partner.
Yep.
Or you don't blow up on other people.
Yep.
Right? So you can be in dignity and containment of it.
Yeah.
Other tools, breathwork's phenomenal. Most people know about breathwork right now. It's great. Wim Hof, even for a quick hit.
Yeah.
I mean, this is going to sound funny, but one of the most potent tools for connecting heart with body, with mind, is going for a walk. Leave your phone at home. Go for a walk and literally tune in. to your heart, to your inner child, if that language works for you. And just listen and literally ask, where are we going?
It's so crazy, right? Because so many people could think, oh, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. And they won't fucking do it.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And it's like, that's where the accountability is needed sometimes. And it's like, you think that, like, I've known people who are bodybuilders who have been crushing it and have PT businesses, and they've had to hire PTs themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, well, of course you're going to need to hire a PT yourself. You're teaching and coaching other people.
Mm-hmm.
So
a lot of people these days are information hoarders. I was an information hoarder for most of my life. And just like gather knowledge, gather information, be like, I know it, but you don't fucking know it until you do it.
yeah,
Right? The knowing is in the doing.
yeah,
And so these things, especially something as simple sounding as a walk
without
a phone and listening to yourself say, I want to go left right now. I want to go right now. Like, I did that for like every night for like 5 months straight. And the potency of being that came out of that, even when I would get to a roundabout and say, I want to go left, I want to go left, I want to go left. I'd walk around that roundabout 4 or 5 times, like, are you sure you want to keep doing this? Like, yep, keep going. And then it's like, okay, let's go down here.
Yeah.
And you just follow
legit freedom.
intuition, your inner child, your heart, whatever you want to call it. And a key here also on containment, you still have to be online enough to say, no, I don't think I'm going to walk down that dark alleyway at 11 o'clock at night, even though my heart wants to do it. I'm going to contain that part. Or no, I'm not going to cross this busy street right now because you just asked it.
Yeah.
I'm going to contain that.
Yeah, another tool that I was just thinking that, that you would know more than anyone else as well is on that one is going out in the woods.
Going out in the woods, having a fire. Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like, those are like so right in front of me that it's like, yeah, of course you fucking do that.
Yeah, but that's like where you specialize,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because like the ultimate thing that you could do for anyone, like as like Shaun, is taking them out somewhere in nature where shit's fucked, and just with their coaching and the talking is allowing someone to completely heal and reprogram their nervous system so they come back again.
One of the best things that you can do is go grab a bunch of buddies and have a fire. Once again, leave your fucking phones at home. And I know I'm just as addicted to my phone as the next person, but go and have a fire. Sit around, shoot the shit, stare at the fire. Like, there's something so healing about just being there in a circle around a fire. We've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years. Like, that's home. That's safety. That's the original safety.
The original. Give me one more.
Fasting, right? As you said, I'm on day 4 or 5 right now. And we talked about discipline. We talked about containment. We talked about being in touch with our bodies right now. Even if you just do a 24-hour fast and work up to longer ones or not, but fasting, allowing your body to rest, brings you so much more in tune with what's actually happening inside you, i.e. your heart, your balls, your brain, all of it.
Yeah, I just think people can just, like, if you haven't done a longer fast, if you haven't done anything over like 32 to 36 hours, there is a sensitivity that you just don't understand that your body has for everything. Like the clarity in your mind, what you want to do with your purpose, what you do in your relationship, sensitivity of making decisions in your life, what you need to move around, who you want to be. It all clicks on a fast like that.
Mm-hmm. I love that you brought purpose into this, because when I'm chewing on big things with a client and we can't figure it out, or it's like it is life purpose or whatever it is, oftentimes I will have them do a 5-day fast, and I prepare them in all of that. Minimum 3 days. Forget about thinking about it. Just be like, do your normal life. Go a little bit slower because you got to when you're fasting. Just do it. On the day you break your fast, it's important to break it gently. that's when you sit down and work. You put your phone aside, you sit down and you go through all of the shit that you're working on and trying to chew through, and like your life purpose and what the fuck am I doing? Am I in or am I out of this relationship? Whatever it is, that's the day to do it. Because you are potent as fuck.
Shaun, thanks so much for coming onto the show. Where can people find you?
Yeah, dude. ShaunCooke.com. It's my website. Instagram, at Shaun L.D. Cook.
And there's Cook with an E, and then Shaun is S-H-A-U-N.
S-H-A-U-N, exactly.
Yeah. And all the links are below.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Perfect.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming onto the show, man.
Thanks, dude. This has been awesome. Fuck yeah.
Fuck yeah.